Cheating wife. My wife was carried into the emergency room on a stretcher from a hotel late at night. The doctor said it was a ruptured corpus luteum, caused by overly intense sexual intercourse. I frantically searched for the adulterer, and it turned out to be the person I trusted the most. Fine. Since you two are so deeply in love, I will send you both into the abyss. At 2 o'clock in the morning, an ambulance roared to a stop downstairs of the Red Pillow Hotel. 10 minutes later, a woman was carried out on a stretcher. She covered her face and upper body with a bath towel and seemed to be curled up in pain. Before long, videos from various angles began to spread on Douyin. When I first saw it, I still had an onlooker's attitude and made vulgar jokes in the commentaria, saying that in all these years, I've only seen an exhausted ox, but never seen a plowed field gone bad. It wasn't until I accidentally saw the bracelet on the woman's dangling wrist that was exactly the same as the one my wife had. That was a gift I gave her on our 5th wedding anniversary not long ago. My heart skipped a beat, as if suddenly a gun was pointed at my back. No, it can't be. My wife has been on a business trip to Hanghouse these 2 days. I even booked the ticket for her. Just because the bracelets are the same? Even if this bracelet is niche and hard to buy, it's not impossible to have the same style. Women with similar figures are even more common. While comforting myself, on the other hand, I frantically searched for videos from other angles. Most of the videos are blurry. After searching for a long time, there is only one that is closest and clearly shows her hand. I slowed down the speed to the slowest and looked frame by frame carefully. That familiar white nail art with diamonds was flashed by the light, stinging my eyes. It's her, Mia. My wife of 3 years is having an affair. At that moment, I only felt that all the blood in my body rushed to my head. The hand holding the phone trembled uncontrollably. The insulted resentment and anger burned in my chest, causing a dull pain and making it difficult to breathe. Although I searched through all the videos and didn't see a suspicious man, but MYA's infidelity is an indisputable fact. Otherwise, how can we explain that she claimed to be on a business trip, but was disheveled and carried out of the hotel with bare calves? I can't even imagine why she called an ambulance. The vulgar remarks in the commentaria have already discussed all the possibilities. I grabbed a coat casually and went downstairs to drive directly to the hospital emergency room. When the on-duty nurse saw me claiming to be MYA's family member, her expression became somewhat complicated. There was a hint of sympathy in the embarrassment, which made my suppressed anger boil up again. She pointed to a ward at the end of the corridor and said that Maya was currently getting an injection and was out of danger. What's wrong with her? At this point, I still had a trace of worry involuntarily. But in the next second, this bit of worry also turned into a pot of oil poured on the anger. Ruptured corpus luteum. The nurse paused, looked at me undated. Caused by overly intense sexual intercourse. There was a buzzing in my head, as if countless little people were mocking. Overly intense sexual intercourse. Thinking of my wife's reserved and aloof appearance at home on ordinary days, I only felt ridiculous and pathetic. In 3 years of marriage, Maya has always been indifferent to that aspect and has never taken the initiative. 2 out of 3 times, she made excuses and didn't want to be intimate. Even if she agreed, she would lie passively and cooperate with me, in a dark room after turning off the lights. I always thought she was naturally reserved and couldn't let go. Unexpectedly, she just couldn't let go with me. With another man, it was intense enough to cause a ruptured corpus luteum. I didn't enter the warden turned around and left the hospital. After taking a strong puff of a cigarette, the previous anger calmed down instead. Although it's hard to accept, but since things have come to this point, I have to face it. At the very least, I need to know who that man is. The hotel refused to provide private information of guests on the grounds of protecting customer privacy. But the front desk said that Maya did check in with a man. After the accident, it was also that man who called the ambulance. However, after Maya was carried onto the stretcher, that man hurriedly checked out and left in a panic through the side door. Since I couldn't find any useful information at the hotel, I had to go home temporarily. At this time, The sky was already slightly bright. I laid iridly on the sofa and casually threw the wedding photos and beside me into the trash can. This marriage has to end. There is no man in this world who can continue living with a cuckold on his head. Before getting a divorce, some accounts still need to be settled. All these years, I think I have treated her well. Even her family has received a lot of care from me. I didn't expect her to repay me like this. Since it's like this, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Sue is my college classmate. His family is poor. His parents are farmers. When I went to her house for the first time, my mother-in-law immediately asked for 300 yuan as betrothal gift. I just hesitated. She also said that Maya had a high education and good looks. There were so many people coming to propose marriage that they lined up to the village. She was not worried about her daughter not getting married. If I was reluctant to give the betrothal gift, don't delay her daughter. I think my conditions are not bad. I have a car and a house, and they have all been fully paid off. My parents are civil servants and I, and their only child. After graduating from college, I entered my second uncle's company and it can be said that I am prosperous and have a bright future. I originally thought I would be the ideal son-in-law in my mother-in-law's eyes. I didn't expect. When my parents heard that the woman's family had such an attitude, they advised me to break up. A brother-dependent woman is not just a temporary trouble. But Maya chased to downstairs of my house in tears. She kept apologizing for her mother. She said that if we really broke up, her mother would marry her off to that nearly 50-year-old old man in the town. 3 days later, I brought 300 yuan in cash and a mahogany box and visited again to finalize this marriage. But this 300 yuan was just the beginning. Since then, my mother-in-law and younger brother have asked for money from time to time for various reasons such as business, decoration, and learning skills. They said it was borrowing, but they never returned it. In 3 years, they took nearly 200 yuan from me one after another. My younger brother is idle and I clean up after him. I've had enough. But every time I see Maya begging me, I can't bear it. Now that I want a divorce, I can finally get rid of this mess. Back then, Maya married me with nothing. Even her job was arranged by me. Thinking about it this way, Maya really got everything for nothing. Then let her go empty-handed. I immediately contacted a lawyer to draw up a divorce agreement and also contacted a friend to help delete those videos on Douyin. I can't afford to lose face. After finishing all this, Maya suddenly came back. She was pale, her eyes were evasive, and she was extremely weak. She almost came in by holding onto the wall, presumably learning from the nurse that I had been to the hospital and knowing that she couldn't hide it anymore. She directly knelt in front of the sofa, grabbed my arm and cried. Still, that pitiful look. But now I only feel disgusted. I shook off her hand and sat up straight, suppressing the impulse to hit her. Maya swayed and fell to the ground. She couldn't help frowning, uncovering her lower abdomen, and involuntarily gasped in pain. This action completely ignited my anger. Your stomach hurts, right? Quite intense. Maya, you really surprise me. Tell me, who is that man? How long has it been? I clenched my fist tightly, and my nails directly pierced into my palm. Maya was like a frightened little rabbit, shaking her head desperately with tears in her eyes, stuttering, No, there is no one. This is the first time. Husband, you have to believe me. I was possessed by the devil for a moment. Husband, I know I was wrong. Please. She cried and begged me to forgive her. But she still wouldn't tell me the name of the adulterer. They are really deeply in love. I remember in college, the first time I fought with someone was because a hooligan flirted with Maya in front of me. That time, I beat the person and sent him to the hospital and paid 50 yuan. At that time, Maya was so scared that she trembled. I put my hand on her shoulder and said, In the future, whoever dares to touch you again, I will break his hand. It was just a rash remark when I was young and impulsive. Now I am not so impulsive anymore. But seeing Maya's panicked and nervous look, It was as if she was really afraid that I would go and cut off the adulterer's hand. So ridiculous. Back then, when I fought with the hooligan for her, she hid far away. Now she has learned to protect other men. Thinking back to when I argued with my parents to marry her, saying that she was gentle, virtuous, pure and cute and would definitely be a good wife and daughter-in-law. Now thinking about those words. They are all, let's get a divorce. I had a splitting headache and didn't want to get entangled anymore. I got up and left this sentence. Whether it's the first time or the 10th time for her infidelity, it makes no difference to me. When Maya heard this, she was stunned for a moment. She forced herself up and threw herself at me, hugging my leg. No, don't. I know I was wrong. Just this once. Please forgive me. Husband. You can't let the child be born without a father. Maya's words hit me like a thunderbolt. What child? My hand trembled imperceptibly. Maya seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw and her eyes lit up. Husband. It's our child. I'm pregnant. Last night, I just found out, by having an ultrasound. I was going to tell you when you were in a good mood. Husband. You can't abandon us. Mother and child. Maya's voice rang in my ears. But I gradually couldn't hear clearly anymore. How many months? I tried to make my voice sound stable. Just 1 month. Maya smiled ingratiatingly and came over to put her arms around my neck. Husband, let's live a good life as a family of 3 from now on. Okay? If Mom and Dad know that they are going to be grandparents, they will be very happy. Yes. Since we got married, they have been looking forward to having a grandson. Unfortunately, husband, what's wrong with you? Maya noticed my strangeness and asked a little nervously. Nothing. I came to my senses and pushed her away without a trace. Why did you leave the hospital now? Aren't you still not well? As soon as Maya heard this, her eyes turned red again. She said the doctor didn't allow it, but she sneaked out on her own, knowing that I was angry, so she wanted to explain to me in person. When saying this, Maya made that pitiful look again, as if I was the one who was wrong. Since you are pregnant, take good care of your body first. We'll talk about other things after you are discharged from the hospital. Perhaps sensing the faint hint of compromise in my words, she seemed to breathe a sigh of relief slightly and looked at me with tears in her eyes and nodded. I avoided her gaze. Personally sent her back to the hospital and saw the pregnancy test report. Sure enough, she was pregnant. Watching her being ordered by the doctor to lie down and get an infusion, I said there was something going on in the company and turned to leave. As soon as I walked out of the hospital, I couldn't hold back the burning anger anymore and punched a treat runk. This adulterer couple. It's true that Maya is pregnant, but the child is not mine. In the years since we got married, I always felt that I wasn't ready to be a parent. Maya wasn't enthusiastic about having a child either. Considering her health, I went to the hospital by myself and got male contraceptives. I didn't tell anyone about this. Unexpectedly, not only did Maya cheat on me, but she also wanted me to be the father of a bastard. She said it was the first time. It turns out there is even a child. Originally, I thought about getting a divorce and cutting off all ties. Now it seems that we need to think long term. I will get back all the insults I have suffered, one by one, back home. I took out Maya's cell phone from under the pillow. Earlier, she was weak and anxious and only cared about pestering me. She didn't notice at all that I had quietly slipped her cell phone into the gap of the sofa. When I left, I urged her quickly, and she completely forgot about it. I know Maya's cell phone password. There is nothing suspicious in her friend list and chat records. But when I tried to switch accounts and found that she really had a small account hidden, after logging in with the SNS verification code, there was only one person in the list of the small account. Clicking into that person's moments, in countless group photos, Maya leaned in that person's arms, smiling sweetly and charmingly. I stared at that man's face for a long time, feeling as if my whole body had been drenched in ice water. It was him. This man is called Weston. He is the brother I think is the best. We have known each other for nearly 20 years. Weston's family was wealthy before. Unfortunately, Later Weston Group was mismanaged, giving competitors an opportunity and falling into a business war rapid declining. At that time, none of Weston's business friends lent a helping hand. The better ones stood by unwatched. The cunning ones took advantage of the situation, undated insult to injury. I heard that almost overnight. Mr. Weston's life's work was in vain. Weston, who had just graduated from college and entered the family business, was powerless to turn the situation around. Without hesitation, I pleaded with my second uncle, hoping that he could help Weston's family. At that time, I was just a small employee in the middle and lower levels of my second uncle's company. However, my second uncle never married all his life and had no children. He regarded me as his own. The huge family business is also intended to be left to me in the future. My second uncle has been in the business world for many years and scoffs at my kindness and so-called brotherly affection. But in the end, he couldn't resist my insistence and still helped Weston's family. A huge sum of cooperation money went into Weston's family's account. It was like sending charcoal in the snow and pulled up the Weston Group, which was about to declare bankruptcy. At the same time, my second uncle also made me make a promise. For a period of 10 years, I will work hard and learn under my second uncle without taking a penny. 10 years later, if my second uncle is satisfied with me, he will hand over the company to me and he will retire and enjoy life. Of course, my daily living expenses are also guaranteed. My parents gave me a card, coupled with the year-end dividends of my second uncle's company. I can live a comfortable life. At first, I still felt it was inappropriate. I had already graduated from college and still asked my parents for money. Wouldn't it make them lose face too much? But my parents and second uncle just smiled and told me to rest assured. Maya, who had just got engaged, didn't have any complaints about my not getting a salary. Instead, she obediently proposed to work hard with me in the company. I let her work. She just stayed at home peacefully. As long as the two of us had a good relationship, it would be great. If we could have a child and continue the family line, it would be even more perfect. At that time, Maya still wanted to insist. My mother directly stuffed a card into her hand, told her that although I didn't have a salary for these 10 years, I would never shortchange her money. After marriage, although Maya didn't have much savings, when she bought things, she never needed to look at the price. And in 5 years of marriage, more than once I was glad about my decision at the beginning. Her greedy parents and that useless younger brother still asked for money from me every now and then when I didn't have a salary. If she had savings, wouldn't they have been emptied out long ago? Gradually, I began to understand why my parents and second uncle had such a decision. And now, I suddenly realized that there might be another deeper meaning. The elders are indeed experienced. Perhaps they have long seen that my parents-in-law are not good people, and Maya may not be a good match. That's why they gave me 10 years to distinguish. In these 10 years, if Maya and I can stay in love and have children, it can be considered that we have withstood the test. If there is any accident, like now, then if I divorce Maya, she won't take half of the Chen family's property for nothing. Sure enough, the older ones are more experienced. 5 years ago, I would never believe that Maya would betray me. I would never believe that my best brother, the brother I anxiously pulled up from the abyss, would do such a thing behind my back. Since this is the case, I have to send him back to the abyss myself. Weston has always been a playboy. It has been like this since student days. But I didn't expect that he would set his sights on my wife. I desperately flipped through the chat records and moments, wanting to see when they got together. Vulgar language emerged one after another. I almost couldn't believe those words came from MYA's mouth. Be gentle tonight. I was in pain for 2 days last time. He almost found out. Let's go to a hotel in the future. It's too inconvenient at home. Fortunately, I said that my menstrual period has come. Otherwise, he still wants to pull me. I don't want him to touch me at all. I only want you. Dear, I bought a new set of underwear. Don't tear it up this time. I vaguely remembered that when I was on a business trip for 2 days last month and came home very late, Maya wasn't asleep. She seemed to have just taken a bath. Her face was flushed and her hair was messy. She was lying on the bed like this, showing half of her chest. I originally thought she was waiting for me, unsecretly rejoiced that she was so active this time. But Maya pushed me away and said that her menstrual period had come early and she was very uncomfortable. She blamed me for not being considerate of her. As soon as I heard it, regardless of the fatigue of the business trip, I turned around and went to the kitchen to cook Angelica a Straggleson brown sugar for her. When I returned to the bedroom with brown sugar water, Maya had quickly tidied up the messy bed and was about to throw the changed clothes into the washing machine. I reached out to take it, but she refused, no matter what. Now thinking about it, I guess she was worried that I would find something that shouldn't be there on the clothes. It's ridiculous that I was still feeling sorry for Maya. Looking through their chat records and moments, I realized how stupid I was before. They have been having an affair for a year or two. Also at the beginning of last year, Maya suddenly said that she wanted to go out to work. She said that she had been at home for a long time and was almost out of touch with society. She said that she had submitted her resume to Tengyu company that she liked, and the other party asked her to wait for notification. Although Tengyu company is not large in scale, it is also quite powerful. In recent years, it has been cooperating with Weston's family. Weston once revealed after drinking that he intended to design an exit. But now the time is not ripe, and the handle of that company has not been grasped yet. At that time, I thought it might be a good choice for Maya to go in, so I found someone to help. Maya successfully joined the company and became an ordinary employee in the business department. After half a year, she became the deputy manager of the business department. At that time, I still praised Maya for having the talent of a strong woman. Now I realize that she is acting as a vanguard for Weston. I restored the phone to its original state and threw it on the sofa. Just now when I was looking through the phone, several strange calls had come in, but I ignored them. Before long, my cell phone rang. Looking down, it was the number that had just called Maya. After ringing twice more, I answered it unhurriedly. Maya anxiously asked me if I had seen her cell phone and if it was left at home. I said I didn't know. I hadn't gone home. Maya obviously breathed a sigh of relief. She made up some excuses and hung up. I had already saved the evidence that should be kept. I got up and went to the company. That night, after coming home after being busy, I found that Maya's cell phone was gone. It seems that she took it away quickly when I wasn't at home. I guess at this moment, she is rejoicing with Weston. Brother, come out and have a drink. I suppressed my anger and hatred and called Weston as usual. Weston came quickly, but his expression was obviously unnatural. He deliberately avoided my gaze. Why do you look so haggard? Weston pretended to be puzzled. I clenched the wine glass tightly. The ice inside was cold layer by layer, barely suppressing my impulse to punch him. Your sister-in-law cheated on me, I said hoarsely, looking fixedly at Weston. Weston's hand holding the wine glass paused slightly. His eyes flickered. Are you kidding? You and your sister-in-law are so in love. I also smiled. Last night she had an affair with that adulterer and had a ruptured corpus luteum. She is still in the hospital. Weston's face looked a bit ugly, as if he didn't know what expression to put on. Do you know who that man is? He hesitated and gasped, seeming a little nervous. He drank half a glass of whiskey in one gulp. I looked at Weston's face and was silent for a long time. It wasn't until Weston coughed lightly uncomfortably and asked me what was wrong that I seemed to come to my senses. I shook my head dejectedly and said I didn't know. What are you going to do? Weston looked at my expression and tentatively asked. I want a divorce. But she is pregnant. Seeing that I seemed reluctant, Weston began to persuade me one after another not to divorce for the sake of the child. After being married for so many years, it's not easy to have a child. If it's a boy, there will be someone to carry on the family line. It will also save my parents from worrying. As for Maya, if you feel uncomfortable, just keep her as an Annie. The child can't be without a mother. I listened indifferently, and almost sneered. Carry on the family line? Weston really has a big appetite. He is thinking about my second uncle's company. I haven't really inherited it yet. but he has already arranged an heir. Then let's wait and see. In front of Weston, I poured myself glass after glass. Under the influence of alcohol, I cursed that adulterer to pieces in front of him. Weston had to curse with me. In the end, I pretended to be persuaded by Weston and said that I decided to forgive her this time for the sake of the child, in order to lower their vigilance. The cooperation between me and Weston Group is still booming. However, I found out the spy Weston planted under me. It was an uncle over 50 years old. He had been in the company for less than 2 years. He was usually taciturn and had neither achievements nor mistakes at work. I had never noticed him before. After some investigation, I learned that his son is a civil servant with good abilities. It's just that there are people blocking him in front and it's hard for him to stand out. Recently, he is facing the problem of going to Tibet for assistance. He is trying to find connections and wants to avoid this 2-year-long distance transfer. It seems that I need to ask my parents for help. They have worked in the government department for most of their lives. They can still do this favor after this matter is resolved. The countermeasure of sowing discord will succeed. The day after Maya was discharged from the hospital and came home, by coincidence, the mother-in-law and younger brother who knew nothing came to the door. Needless to think, they must have come to ask for money again. But I am no longer that sucker. Maya also knows that things are different now. She keeps winking at her mother. The mother-in-law didn't understand what she meant. Being interrupted by Maya again and again, she couldn't help being angry. Jackson, the younger brother, also impatiently shouted, scolding his sister as a white-eyed wolf. It's just borrowing a few tens of thousands of yuan. The brother-in-law hasn't said anything yet. She is the first to show an attitude. After finishing speaking, he looked at me with a playful smile again and said that he wanted to open a tea room and set up a mahjong table in it. He wanted to borrow 50 yuan from me. As soon as he got his money back, he would give it to me immediately. I flatly refused and said expressionlessly that I had a tight capital turnover recently and asked him to find a way and return the nearly 200 yuan he borrowed earlier to me. The mother-in-law and younger brother had never seen me like this before. They were stunned for a moment and then were about to make a scene. Maya had no choice but to beg me like before. Only this time, before she could finish speaking, I interrupted her. Wife, you are so filial. Why don't you go back to your mother's house? I left the sentence and went into the study. Seeing that I had an unfriendly expression and seemed to have the thought of divorce again, Maya was in a panic. In order not to let the duck that was about to be in hand fly away, she directly drove her own mother and younger brother out of the house. After all, after Maya was discharged from the hospital, my parents and second uncle specially came to see her and promised that when the child was born, they would reward Maya with a villa and a part of company shares. At that time, when Maya heard this, her eyes lit up. Yes, after 5 years of marriage, although she has never been short of money, there is no real estate under her name. If one day they get divorced, she won't get a penny. Now with a bastard in her belly, after giving birth, she can. At that time, when I completely inherit my second uncle's company, I will cooperate with Weston from inside and outside, set up a trap and finally occupy the magpie's nest. When I fail and go bankrupt, and then divorce me, she can live happily with Weston. This is not my imagination. This is what she and Weston said in the chat records. She is ruthless, but she doesn't know Weston as well as I do. The reason why Weston hasn't got married until now is that he doesn't want anyone to restrain his freedom. Moreover, Weston, who has always been arrogant since he was a child, will never really marry a divorced woman. Probably, he just wants to use Maya to plot against my company, who let Weston be a born playboy. There is no one in this world that he can't get. Maya was coaxed around by him and completely became a love-struck person. A beautiful future is waving at her. At this time, how could she let her family ruin her plan? She told her family about her affair and made it clear that things were different now and warned them not to lose big because of small things. As soon as the mother-in-law heard that I was angry because of pregnancy, The mother-in-law thought that having a child would make her daughter more valuable. This is the only chance. She somehow got a secret recipe for having a son and forced Maya to drink it. I had already installed monitoring equipment at home, so I watched with interest. She forced Maya to drink a bowl of traditional Chinese medicine. She said that this prescription was passed down by the elders in the village and it was always effective. 3 months later, Maya went for a prenatal checkup. Sure enough, it was a boy. Unfortunately, the doctor said that there might be a problem with the child's heart. I don't know if it was caused by that secret recipe for having a son. However, this kind of congenital heart abnormality is not fatal. But after birth, it will require a lot of time and money for treatment, then abort. I deliberately frowned, seeming very regretful, but before I could finish speaking, Maya interrupted me hastily. Then keep it. She spoke too hastily. This disease will cost a lot of money. Husband. He just has a little problem with his heart. You see, he already has hands and feet. He is a complete little life. How can we not want him? I can't bear it. I can't bear our child. Maya pulled me. I only felt a wave of nausea. What she can't bear is my family property. Right? I almost sneered. Regret. This time, it was her own choice. Then keep it. Money is not a problem. You're right. In any case, this is our child. I said words against my will. Looking at Maya's relieved expression, the coldness in my heart grew stronger. During this time, I seldom went home. Even when I was at home, I slept in the study. I didn't even want to see the door of that bedroom. Thinking of Maya and Weston being on that bed, doing that kind of thing while looking at our wedding photos. I wished I could burn down this house and those adulterous couple completely, but death is too cheap for them. I want to make them live a life worse than death. When the mother-in-law learned that Maya was pregnant with a boy, she was overjoyed. Thinking that Maya had secured her status, she began to ask for money shamelessly again. But because of the affair, they didn't dare to pester me anymore, so they could only pester Maya. The younger brother came to ask for money again. When he didn't get it, he cursed at Maya and accidentally smashed the antique vase on my antique shelf. Maya was shocked and angry. She couldn't bear it anymore and directly broke off with her family. That night, Maya called the police and reported her younger brother's mahjong parlor. The police arrested him on the charge of gathering for gambling. The mother-in-law who got the news was panicked and helped find connections. Before I could say anything, Maya calmly confessed to her mother that it was she who reported it. As soon as the mother-in-law heard this, she was furious. Regardless of Maya being pregnant, she directly pounced on her and started a fight. Maya was pushed and hit the corner. She covered her stomach and was frightened and her face turned pale. Fortunately, Maya, who came to her senses, immediately called the police and had her mother arrested too. Husband. Now I only have you. Maya's tears welled up in her eyes. She looked at me in panic and vulnerability. For you, I have even cut off all ties with my relatives. My expression softened a little. For the first time, I took the initiative to touch her stomach. Don't say that. There is still the child. Maya's eyes flickered. She leaned on my arms and said some hypocritical words. I endured my disgust and listened. Since Maya got pregnant, although she was unwell, she still insisted on going to work, so dedicated lie. How could I not give her an opportunity? 2 days later, a theft occurred in Tangyu Group, where Maya worked. Almost all department heads found that their drawers had been rummaged through and several important contracts were missing. Even the door of the president's office was pried open. No one knows exactly what was lost, but Jet of Tangyu Group was furious and immediately ordered his subordinates to access the surveillance. But who would have thought that the uncle in charge of managing the surveillance equipment stammered and said that there was a thunderstorm a few days ago. The surveillance equipment was damaged. As a result, those cameras in the entire company were just for show. He originally planned to repair it slowly. He didn't expect a theft to happen at this critical moment. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the company was shocked. Jet was even more furious. He ordered the circuit to be repaired immediately to ensure the surveillance equipment. The uncle said with difficulty that it would take at least 2 days to completely repair it, make it work normally. As soon as Jet heard this, his face became even darker. Without saying a word, he turned and left. I heard that the employees of Tang Yu Group are on tenterhooks these 2 days. They are cautious in their words and deeds for fear of angering the boss and being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And Maya, a pregnant woman with an obvious belly, unlimited mobility, worked overtime that night before going home. Really hard work. I smiled faintly. Maya tiptoed into the president's office, rummaged through desks and cabinets, found a document from the bottom of the drawer, and replaced it with one she had prepared in advance. She also took out a USB flash drive and plugged it into the laptop. After doing all this, she quietly left. Maya thought it was flawless, but she didn't even think about why Jet's computer had a password. Of course, she couldn't think of it. The so-called theft was just a trap to lure the snake out of its hole. The surveillance equipment was never paralyzed. Even Maya's breathing could be heard clearly, but now is not the time to expose it. After all, the false news deliberately released by Jet to Maya hasn't reached Weston's ears yet. That night, I clinked glasses with Jet. Congratulations in advance. Jet, Weston's family has been in business for many years and has abundant resources. It's yours now. Thanks a lot. Mr. Chen, you are so young but can strategize so well. I dare not. I'm just going with the flow. Tonight's wine tastes exceptionally good. Presumably Maya and Weston are also eager to try. Then, let them be happy for 2 more days. Because soon they won't even have a chance to cry. Jet was already prepared. Therefore, everything Maya did was in vain. And the so-called secrets she collected in the company during this time. The false news deliberately released by Jet. Weston thought everything was ready, so he couldn't wait to start. He and Maya tampered with the cooperation and dug a big hole for Jet. If there was no precaution in advance, this time it would really be a big blow to Tang Yu Group. Unfortunately, Jet has been waiting for this day. Weston's actions were exactly what Jet wanted. The confident Jet, Tang Yu Group was caught off guard and was severely hit. Overnight, fortune took a turn. Weston's family was in the same situation as 5 years ago. Weston hurriedly called me and asked for 20 million yuan as soon as he opened his mouth. I almost laughed out tears. Finally, under Weston's puzzled questioning, I coldly said, "Weston, you're on your own. You must survive this difficult time." The child in Maya's belly. Weston was silent on the other end for a moment. "You already know?" "No. You knew it long ago. This is all your trap, right? Chen, you are so ruthless. I underestimated you. If you want me to die, you won't live either. Wait and see." I had a headache and was very annoyed. I hung up the phone directly. Weston has now been pushed to the end by me. I really want to see what he can do. Soon, someone anonymously reported my second uncle's company. After so many years, he still hasn't made any progress. It's still those crooked ways. I quietly waited for the people from the Procuratorate to audit the company's accounts. At this time, the spy Weston planted by my side was detained by the police. He was charged with bribery and was caught on the spot and taken to the public security organ. For a while, everyone was talking about how I was guilty and tried to cover up my crime by sending my subordinates to give gifts to the relevant departments. And my parents are civil servants in government departments, and have deep resources and connections. That's why they could successfully send the money to the responsible person's home. Unfortunately, that responsible person is in Korkukan didn't accept it at all. He reported it to the police immediately. Now he is being interrogated. When he confesses clearly and with the evidence in hand, I will soon be lifting a rock and hitting myself on the foot and be arrested. These rumors were vividly told. Even I thought they made sense. Dear, finally seeing the light. That cuckle will be finished soon. After he is arrested, quickly take his personal computer and bring it here. I have professionals here to operate it. Then use his identity to transfer the funds on the accounts to Weston's family. Dear, I will buy you anything you want then. Weston and Maya were secretly rejoicing and planning how to close the net. But they didn't know that I had someone install a monitoring system on MYA's cell phone long ago. I can master their communication content and real-time location at any time. Since they were so eager for me to be arrested, then I might as well be merciful and make them happy again. I disappeared and lost contact for half a day. Then I deliberately released the news that someone saw me being taken into a police car. For a while, people in the company were in a state of panic. And Weston and Maya had already started celebrating. They never expected that as soon as they opened my personal computer with the help of a hacker, the police broke in. It wasn't until they saw me that they suddenly realized that this was another trap. And looking at that scene in front of me, I only felt that the blood in my veins was burning. Maya and Weston, that adulterer couple, were operating on my computer on the bed. At the same time, they were not idle. Although Maya was close to her due date and didn't dare to move vigorously, she was still half naked with disheveled clothes and a beaming face. Weston was also shirtless and lying on the bed in the bedroom. He was clearly the master of this house. Even though my feelings for Maya had only disgust left, facing this extremely insulting scene, it was hard to stay calm. Perhaps the only benefit is that the ironclad evidence of MYA's affair with Weston has also been collected in the police recorder. Weston and Maya were both taken away. The spy he arranged did indeed take a small box of cash to the responsible person's house, but it was not for bribery. Instead, he directly confessed. He told Weston's conspiracy completely. The recording of Weston him to frame and set me up was also very clear. As soon as the responsible person heard that Weston was so ruthless and even almost dragged him down, he was furious and immediately reported the case and arrested Weston. As for Maya, the surveillance video of her stealing confidential contracts and in the president's office of Tang Yu Group has become evidence for her conviction, and the matter of conspiring with Weston and trying to move and steal funds has also been filed. However, Maya is still pregnant, so she hasn't been arrested yet. After she gives birth to the child, she will pay the price for her criminal behavior. On Weston's side, after Weston was arrested, there was no leader and it was in chaos. All kinds of illegal operations in the past were exposed one after another. There was even suspicion of contract fraud and tax issues. In order to pay the fine, Weston's family almost emptied their savings. Previous partners avoided them one after another and distanced themselves. And Jet of Tang Yu Group also made a move at the right time and acquired the bankrupt Weston Group, swallowing up all the resources accumulated by 2 generations of Weston's family. Weston was sentenced to 10 years. When the trial result came out, I met him. He looked haggard as if he had become a different person. This time, he no longer had his previous arrogance and air. Through the thick glass, he looked at me fixedly with bloodshot eyes and actually showed a hint of pleading. Brother, it was my momentary confusion, but we are brothers for 20 years. You can't leave me to die. You won't. Right. Just like 5 years ago. You pull Weston's family again. Please, brother. I know you are the most kind-hearted. Weston's hoarse voice was like a dying crow in the dark night. You are not my brother. I am never kind. My creed is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I walked out of the prison and didn't look back. I have never been a kind-hearted person. On the contrary, I am vengeful and petty. 5 years ago was the only time I was soft-hearted, but it brought me a huge humiliation. Calculating the time, it should be time for Maya to give birth. It's a pity that the child's father is no longer the group president, but a prisoner. I heard that Maya suffered for 3 days in the hospital and gave birth to a thin and weak boy. His whole body was purple and blue and his cry was very weak. He was directly taken into the intensive care unit. And MYA's parents and younger brother never appeared in the hospital from beginning to end. My cell phone was almost blown up by Maya. Dozens of text messages poured in every day. They were all calls and messages from Maya during the intervals of labor pains. At first, I still took a look. It was nothing more than unbegging. Later, I directly blocked her. 3 days after the child was born, I took the paternity test report and divorce agreement and went to the hospital. Maya almost collapsed. regardless of the fact that she still had an IV and a blood bag hanging on both hands. She rolled directly off the bed and knelt in front of me with a thud. "Husband, I don't want a divorce. Please don't drive me away. I don't want anything. Just treat me as a kitten or a puppy. I can be a nanny. I was annoyed and looked away, not wanting to look at her pale and powerless face. The pain she suffered was all for giving birth to another man's child. What does it have to do with me? The deeper my love for her was before, the heavier my disgust for her is now. Looking at Maya kneeling on the ground and begging, my heart was completely cold. Her haggard and weak appearance was very much like the scene when she was hospitalized for a ruptured corpus luteum that night. The evidence of your affair is all in my hands. If you sign the divorce agreement now, you can take away the things I bought for you over the years. If you are still unwise, you can only take the bastard and really leave with nothing. You know, I'm not in the mood to joke with you." Maya almost fainted from crying. Her eyes were full of despair and resentment. Looking at this face, I felt extremely strange. 10 minutes later, I walked out of the ward with the signed divorce agreement. Behind me, there was the panicked shout of the nurse. "Bed 27. Bed 27. Quick! There is massive bleeding in bed 27. Rescue immediately. Call Director Wang over." There was chaos behind. I walked out of the hospital corridor facing the setting sun and never looked back.